Well, welcome everyone. My name is Kyle. Here with me, I have Sam and Steve Miller with the Nashville Home Guys. How you guys doing?
Oh, good, man. Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. So these guys are experts in the Nashville area market. So can you guys explain a little bit of how long have you guys been working in real estate, specifically in Nashville, because a lot of people move into Nashville. So how familiar are you with that market, and how many people have you helped this past year?
Well, I've been doing it. This is my 20th year this year. My second career in life, but it's been very rewarding. Sam teamed up with me about 2.5 years ago now, after 15 plus years in sales and marketing. So it was a perfect fit. He's a great people person and we complement each other's styles as a father and son should.
Yeah.
How long we've been here since the early 90s?
Yeah, 1990.
Pretty much my whole life, since I was 5. So
yeah,
we love calling this city home, and it's been a great place to be all these years.
Felt like home when we moved here. I mean, it's just the people are great, the culture's great, naturally the music's great, and the industry has come on. The health industry and banking and stuff has come on so strong in the last 20 years that we're in a boom period for the city.
Absolutely. And you guys have seen a lot of change in the Nashville market over the past, I mean, you said since the 90s at that point. And Steve, it was earlier for you, right?
Well, I got here in 91.
In 91, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So can you walk us through, what does that change look like, obviously over the past, was that 30 years? It's weird to think that the 90s was 30 years. What does that look like over 30 years, but also what does the past 3 years look like?
Oh my goodness, man. The last 3 to 5 years has just been the wild, wild west, as people have come to find out what we've always known about Nashville, just what a beautiful place it is and how the culture is so welcoming. And our city leaders have done a great job about attracting, not only professional sports, but now a huge corporate influx of companies coming into town. So we look for that to hold up for the next 2 to 3, 4 years.
Yeah,
absolutely. Especially, Amazon is creating 5,000 jobs here. Facebook just did I think a $750 million project that they are getting ready to close on in Gallatin, which is really cool.
Bernstein in New York has brought their headquarters here. Mitsubishi's brought their headquarters here.
Wow.
So, and that's all been in the last year, 2 years, So the past 3, really 5 years have been pretty crazy as far as real estate goes here and people moving into the city. Remember what was the stat of how many people were moving here a day? At one point, it was like over 80.
Yeah. It's still at 80 a day.
80 a day.
Yeah.
80 a day.
And that's just in Nashville?
And so, middle Tennessee, Nashville, Murfreesboro, Franklin, Brentwood.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's wild.
That's how traffic has increased, Kyle.
yeah, exactly.
So there's at least one con that we have going on there. I know last time we tried to do this live stream, you guys are mentioning a lot about kind of the family dynamics of Nashville, about how you're having all of these job opportunities come in. And I think it's really easy to focus on the economic impact of what that looks like and how real estate market gets impacted by businesses coming in. But as far as school systems and community and raising a family in Nashville, can you guys speak a little bit to that? And what does the Nashville area look like if I was going to build a family there?
Yeah.
Well, Sam, you're building one. Why don't you talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, there's certain areas of Nashville, like any city where I live in Davidson County myself, about 10 minutes south of Nashville. And we have one of the best elementary schools in the whole county. Actually, it is the best. So, we're doing public school for elementary school. Same thing with middle and high. There's areas where the middle and high schools are really nice and you can still do public. Best schools in the country, though, are Williamson County. Williamson County is just right south of Nashville. That includes Franklin, Brentwood, Spring Hill, Thompson Station. And they're nationally ranked every year. So, a lot of families that are wanting to do the public school route will end up going to either Williamson County or maybe Rutherford County, they also have good schools. And then
Wilson County.
Wilson County as well has great schools. So you can do it and still be, you can be in Nashville if you're in like the, you know, the right neighborhood. Or you can be in one of the surrounding counties and still be within 20 minutes, 15 minutes of the city as well, and have a great public school system all the way through.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
which is great. And a lot of great private schools as well. With a ton of choices.
It's just a real great community to live in. I mean, neighbors, people are not afraid to talk to you or smile. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. So that really makes it a much more relaxed and just much more relaxed, and a great way to teach your kids how to get along in the world. You don't have to fight like in other metropolitan areas. Sometimes it's a major fight to get things done, but here, people seem to want to help.
Yeah.
From people from like the Northeast can sometimes get a little freaked out because you can learn somebody's life story, like in the grocery line or something.
Yeah.
Simple hi can lead to like a 20-minute conversation. Like, wow, how do we get here? So, but that's one of the great things about it. That's one of the things about Nashville that really I think draws people in and keeps them here. You know, I've met friends that have moved here from Colorado where they were born and raised, and they came to Nashville for school or for work or for music. And then now it's been 10 years and they haven't left. And it was always like a, 3 to 5 year plan. So it's just extremely inviting, extremely friendly.
Yeah. That's something that I've noticed about Nashville compared to other larger cities and developing cities, is that it seems like everybody is really in tune with what everyone else is working on and wants to back and champion what people are doing to grow. Where I feel like in a lot of other cities, there's more competition that's perceived there. So if somebody's working on something or a new company's coming in, that looks like competition. Instead, in Nashville, it almost seems like, oh, this is something that's going to help prop up the community even further.
You know, I don't know if it's that underlying music thread that runs throughout the city, but the musicians here, even though they're all in competition with each other, they all cooperate with each other. And I don't know if that doesn't bleed through into the rest of the fabric of the city.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people just enjoy seeing Nashville become the city that it's becoming. And so it drives people, competition's good for anybody, right? So I think it just kind of collectively, was it rising tides raise all boats or whatever? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like the same thing in Nashville. Just and you can see that even like in volunteer efforts. I mean, we had that huge tornado that ripped through Nashville in March, and just the amount of people that came out. I mean, areas were having to send volunteers away just because of that community aspect. Like so many people wanted to pour into East Nashville and into West Nashville, North Nashville, and the places that really got hit pretty hard to where there was like an oversupply. And so that is kind of what I feel like our city's all about.
Yeah, and even, to see that happen after the flood of 2010, which was really like devastating to the city, people pitched in like crazy and got the city rebuilt. And so you don't know in that decade period, between then and the tornado in March, how people are going to stay glued because there have been so many other people come in. But it was the same result. I mean, everybody really comes out to try to help everybody else.
Yeah. Yeah. Clearly there's a super strong community that's going on in Nashville. And I think all the surrounding cities as well. How do you think that that's impacted the real estate market? Not only because we're in the spring market coming up here, well, other than the fact that it snowed, the hopefully spring market up soon, but then also what's happening with COVID-19 and all of these changes. How are you seeing the market play out for both sellers and buyers?
Well, the market, because we have such an influx of people coming in, inventory is a problem. People want to live here. People want to find a place to live. So right now it's robust. I mean, so if somebody's out looking, they're going to buy. And I think sellers we'll get through this month, and I think we'll start seeing a lot more listings as May and June and July come up. So spring may be delayed. The full brunt of it may be delayed about 45 days, but the market and the city is strong enough that it'll carry us through for sure.
Yeah, February and March were really strong. And I just looked actually, and I think on Real Tracks, there's only showing like a 3-month supply of houses for all of Davidson County. And that's pretty much on par. Well, that was for March, not April, because we don't have that data yet. But so that was pretty much the same in February as well. So there's a lot of scarcity for new buyers, especially in Davidson County. So, it's still that, for sellers, that's a good opportunity to put your house up because there's still people that need to buy, and it creates an opportunity because you have less competition. And there's ways with COVID that we're changing. You can now do virtual showings through Showing Times, which is one of the largest. It is the largest showing appointment center. So you can do virtual showings now. We've always kind of done video with our showings, just so people, or with our listing, so that people can get a feel of the house before they're even there. Obviously, people are using gloves, masks. There's no open houses. So yeah, I think a lot of things have changed where you can still be safe and be responsible. And I think digital is going to play a big role.
Yeah. So we're open for business. Come on down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think
we've done FaceTime showings before, Skype. Again, all of our listings usually have a video walkthrough, or I would say 90% of them have a video walkthrough too. So if we ever list something, you can actually see us walk through it and kind of explain what's going on. So I think that kind of helps too.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to think that because of the changes in the market that things would be slower. But I think what we're finding is the serious buyers are really ramping up how serious they are because they understand how quickly things are going. So you guys talked a little bit about inventory and scarcity and supply. So can you talk a little bit about, first of all, what is inventory? Because I think we hear this word all the time in real estate, but it's, if I'm a buyer, what does inventory mean for me? And as a seller, what does inventory look like? And how does that change the price that I can get or how quickly things move?
You got it, Sam? You want me to?
You take it.
Well, the scarcity, man, really means that if you want to buy a house, you need to buy a house. So if you see something that, clicks off 80% of what you're really looking for, and it's really important for a buyer when they go into a market like this to know exactly what they want in a house, but also really what they need in a house. And if you get 80% of your needs, that's probably the house. And so there's not a lot of you don't have a lot of time to kind of make up your mind. If this really looks like it checks off a lot of your boxes, we probably ought to make an offer on it. On the selling side, price is not. We haven't seen any slip in prices, but which for this market we're at the highest we've ever been. But people moving in from Chicago or New York or Los Angeles or some of the higher markets are still going, oh my goodness, you're kidding me? We can buy this for this much. Yeah. So we still have a lot of that shock worth as far as people coming in and looking. Sellers are protected just because there isn't that much inventory. So as things start ramping up with some of the new subdivisions and developments that are happening, that should start to improve toward the third and fourth quarter, I believe.
Yeah, so just kind of back that up is definitely as like a buyer, if the house is in good condition, it's the right price, it's in a good location, it's going to sell over the weekend. I mean, 9 times out of 10. And, we're still seeing multiple offer situations, a little bit less now for sure. But again, if it meets those, price, condition, location criteria, that's kind of ideal, then it's probably going to have multiple offers. And I pulled up some numbers just for like about how the price of homes sold. But to give you just an idea, like the average sales price in Davidson County was $391,000, which was up 7% from March of last year. So that kind of plays into the scarcity thing, because when there's not that many houses on the market, yet you have a lot of buyers, the prices get driven up because more people want that one house. And so we're still seeing these closed prices go up, whereas new listings were down 6% last year. So, like my dad said, I do think we're 45, 60 days away from seeing a lot more inventory. I think April has already been pretty telling. It's April's inventory is down without seeing the numbers. Like we can already tell it's down. So yeah, I think, as a seller, it provides a great opportunity. And just as a buyer, you just kind of have to be pre-approved already. Make sure that you're good to go with your lender, and if you see something that you can picture yourself living in, you need to go after it.
Yeah, I think you guys touched on something huge, especially the 7% price increase, because that's the cost of waiting. If I say real estate prices are too expensive right now, but we see that they're continuing to increase, well, I know that if I wait another year, me buying a $300,000 house now, next year is going to cost, I can't do that math in my head, $321,000, right?
Something like that, yeah.
I'm going to have to pay an extra $21,000 to get the same exact home if the market continues in that same way. And I think too, we also have been kind of, trained in a way to see HGTV and all these dream homes ideas. And we think that the home that we have to buy has to be this perfect dream home that we're going to go show off on Instagram or whatever. But, just like you mentioned, Steve, you have 80% of your checklist and you know what your wants and needs are, so that when you hit all the things that I absolutely need, let me go ahead and purchase a property, build equity in it, let it get build appreciation, and then in a couple of years we can move into something that checks more of those boxes.
Right.
Yeah. Because most people aren't. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, most people aren't staying in those homes for 30 years.
No, that's the thing, and especially for a first-time home buyer, they think they're buying their home, for that's going to be their home for a long time.
Yeah.
And really, I think the average is about 7 years you're in a home at the most, 5 to 7. Because you got life changes. Like Sam's got 2 kids, so he either had to move or he had to build on. So he built on. So, those kind of things come up. And I think first-time home buyers think that they're going to park themselves there for the rest of their lives. And most times they're not, because they're building wealth. Every time you move up, Sam is done, he'll tell you, every time you move up, you continue to contribute to the wealth that you have. So if there's one thing that Sam and I are both get concerned with for kids his age, really, is that, the longer you pay rent, the less time you have to accumulate wealth. And right now in the 30s, 20s, and 30s, people aren't thinking about that. They're buying rent, or they're paying rent, you're making the landlord the rich, and they come out of it, still with the same nothing except a place to live.
Yeah.
So I think anybody that is thinking about buying their first house really needs to, 1, consider that they're not going to be there for the next 20 years, most likely. 2, as long as what Sam says about location and price and condition is right, then really there's no sense paying rent when you can, most times, as you know, Kyle, get into a house cheaper than it cost you for rent.
Yeah.
So I just think that, that's part of our job, and your job is to educate, as well as provide the service to make sure they help make the right decision.
Absolutely.
The first house is really important.
Yeah. And we've recently had this conversation with a couple of our clients that wanted something that was just right now wasn't feasible. And so, we kind of guided them like, hey, here's a great area you should buy in. It's close to work. It checks off, again, maybe 80% of those things. Maybe you don't get as much land as you want or whatever, but in 3 to 5 years, once you sell this, you'll have enough money to step up. And I did the same thing. I bought a house in East Nashville when I was 24. I can't remember, something like that. So
what a great realtor, Kyle.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Inside. So, and then we almost doubled our money on that house, and that's how we got into this house and renovated it and then added on. So, we used the depreciation that we earned from that house to get to a more family neighborhood, be able to renovate the whole thing, and then we could do the same thing now if we wanted to. So, but without making those leaps of faith, I wouldn't have been able to do this. So it's really springboarded our family in terms of just of financial well-being.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's that delaying gratification as well, because it's easy to, and I think it can be discouraging sometimes to see maybe an area like Nashville that might be a little bit out of somebody's price range, but there are so many other areas that people can explore if they're increasing their commute time a little bit. You can still be a part of the city and be a part of building wealth, just maybe not right in the center of it.
Yeah, well,
We're definitely seeing that happen to the north and to the south and west of town for sure.
and that's what I was going to say. I don't want that 391,000 number to scare anybody. There's areas in Nashville where you can't even touch it for under $1 million. But there's also areas that are great to live in here that you can buy something for 300, or depending on the size of house, of course, you can get under 300. So I think that's also a great thing about Nashville is we're a small city. But we have a lot of distinct and unique areas of the city. And then even some of the surrounding counties just right outside, it's very affordable. So it kind of caters to a wide array of buyers. We have, again, those people from Silicon Valley moving here, New York, that, where they look at a $750,000 house and they see a great opportunity, with the yard and the space. But, I could see if you're from here and you're a new buyer, it can seem a little intimidating, but I mean, we've closed on houses last month in March that were right at 300, a little under, first-time home buyers. So there's still opportunities to get into the market for the right price for anybody.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge benefit too of working with experienced realtors like both of you, is because on one hand, I could go look on Zillow, and Zillow is going to show me all of the high-end homes and think there's no way I can afford this $500,000 house. So I'm going to stick with renting. And I have to stick with renting for the rest of my life because there's no way I can afford this. But being able to talk with somebody like you, they can recognize that this isn't just one deal that happens. This isn't one-time purchase.
Right.
But you guys can help somebody strategize a plan for, hey, we want to get into a market. This is eventually what we're looking for. So what are some areas that we can begin moving into to make sure that our family's taken care of, but then also our 5-year timeline is taken care of as well?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Plenty of opportunities for that, and still be within 30 minutes of downtown.
Yeah.
So, like Sam said, if you back off a little bit, don't have to live right in downtown, but don't mind a little drive or an Uber.
You don't want the traffic anyway.
Yeah.
So a big question that I've been asked a lot is mainly in regards to timing, especially with all the changes that we're seeing on the lending side with this pandemic, all the stay-at-home orders and everything. And so people are trying to figure out, should they buy now, sell now? Should they wait? Where are you guys seeing and how are you advising clients as far as their timeline in the next few months?
Well, I mean, we're pretty much gung-ho. I mean, we're on. So if somebody's thinking about selling, this is a great time to sell, just again, because of the inventory. And if you're thinking about buying, prices aren't going to get that much lower here for the next year to 2 years, if they get lower at all. And right now, unless there's more outcome to the pandemic than we're already seeing, I don't see it because the demand is continuing to increase on a daily, monthly, company by company basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Kyle, too, like rates right now, I mean, they've been kind of all over the place the past 2 weeks, but it seems like they've come back to a lower level, which is great for buyers because you have more buying power as well. So, I think, my dad and I talk about this all this time, but we don't have to sell a house. That's a great thing about this business. The house always sells itself. We're not hard pressing people. So, I would say if you're a buyer and you're confident that your company outlook looks good, that, that you don't have any, foreseeable employment changes in the next month. I mean, it's still a good time to get in the market and buy. And as far as sellers go, we can mitigate risk. We can, every realtor is taking precautions. I mean, obviously nobody wants to catch this thing and everybody wants to keep their clients healthy. And so it is a great time to sell just because of that inventory shortage. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting time, but it's still a good time to take just to kind of jump on opportunity when you see it.
Yeah. Sam hit on a great point, Kyle, about, houses not, or us not selling houses. In my 20 years, I've never sold a house. It's my job to listen to my clients' needs and wants and try to mesh those, and then put what I'm hearing in front of them so they can continue to refine what they are looking for. Yeah. So I've really never sold a house. I've always let the house sell itself. And that, I think that's really important when it comes to a first-time home buyer or any home buyer for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you're touching on there too is that idea of having a really solid plan for either buying or selling, and how you guys come in with the expertise to be able to help somebody actually execute that plan in the best way possible. Because I think when stuff like this happens in the market, we see how reactive and emotional we are as people. Did you guys see the Twitter trend where people were talking about how they were waiting for the housing market to crash so they could get it? Which I think is just kind of funny, like, because nobody can predict the future and know what's going to happen, but it's just awakening to realize how much of our decisions are based on us being reactionary to things that are going on. Instead of saying, what is the plan that I have right now outside of everything externally? What do I actually want to accomplish right now? And what do I want to accomplish in 3, 5, 10 years? So if rates change, that shouldn't impact my actual financial plan. Because if a rate dropping 1% is changing me and my family moving somewhere or purchasing or selling, then I might have a pretty flimsy foundation that I'm basing everything off of.
Totally.
So how do you guys help with structuring that plan or guiding people through if they don't have a plan set up in the first place?
One thing that I do for I've done this for several of my buyers, especially when we're kind of addressing this, but it's really easy to log on to MLS and look at the area or the specific neighborhood or whatever, and just kind of show them the 5-year trend. And it really surprises a lot of people how, I remember the correct stat, but I think the past 3 or 5 years, we've kind of averaged in Davidson County about 6% appreciation just across the board. There's other areas where that's been double digits, 15%. There's other areas it's been lower, like 2 or 3%. But that is one thing that I've done that really helps people see the value now. Like, even if right now, you're probably going to buy a house at market value. There's not that many deals out there. You're not going to, get a steal deal from somebody. But even if you don't delay and you buy something at market right now, and it's appreciating at the low point every year at 4 or 5%, and you show them what that looks like at the end of 5 years, I think it just paints the picture of what that does. Because again, I think, sometimes people look at, like you said, HGTV, and HGTV will be like, we put an offer in at 360 and the list price was 400 and we settled on 380, and that right now in Nashville, it can happen, but it's just not the norm, Right. So even getting something at market value and showing, that just how that creates wealth over time is really powerful. And just, reminding people that we have industries in Nashville that are, I don't want to say recession proof, but they're recession resistant. So we have a huge healthcare infrastructure here, IT, education. Usually tourism is really good, but right now tourism is not a thing. But those three industries, healthcare, IT, education, are they're just really solid, businesses. So I don't see Nashville, if anything, if we drop from 7% to 5%, there's still a lot of gains to be made.
Yeah. The other thing too, Kyle, is that we'd love to show, especially first-time home buyers. Let's say you don't buy a house for 5 years. What's that cost you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And let them get a comparison between, well, if I went ahead and bought now, you mean I save all this money and I actually gain this much more money? So sometimes it's hard when that initial impact of $300,000 seems intimidating sometimes, but in the long run, the biggest investment and the best investment you can make in your own life.
Yeah. And there's absolutely a reason why a home is listing for what it's listing for. I think there's something innately in us that wants to see a price and think, oh, that's way overpriced. Someone's putting in a lot of margin into that. When it's not the case, what people don't see on the back end that you guys get to see, and I'm sure is frustrating because you see all the competition and you have to try to relay that to buyers and sellers as well. But when a home gets listed, I know it's like this in our market, so I'm sure it's at least like this in the Nashville market as well. a home gets listed within 24 hours, it probably has at least 3 offers on it.
Yeah.
If it lasts on the market longer than a week, there's probably something like wrong with the home, or it's completely listed at the wrong price.
Totally.
Because we're seeing homes go under contract within 2-3 days.
Yeah.
So with that competition, are there ways that buyers can actually come in and be stronger than the competition that they're facing with that home?
Well, yeah, a lot of different ways. You know, sometimes it comes down to how quick can I close? If I'm working with somebody like you, you know, how quick can you close me, Carl? Can I give them an offer that you can close me in 30 days?
Mm-hmm.
And then maybe scaling back on what you thought you were going to ask for, like closing costs. You know, sometimes you can ask a buyer or a seller to pay closing costs. But if there's multiple markets and it's in a market as strong as this one, the cleaner you can make your offer, the more chance you're going to have of getting it accepted.
Yeah.
You know, all home warranties, you know, you can buy those at the closing table for $500. You don't have to have the seller do that. Closing costs. Well, I didn't really want to spend $3,000 or $4,000 for closing costs, but maybe you do to have that house. So there, and the ability to close quickly. That's why it's so important to talk to a mortgage lender. And we always stress it before we put anybody in our car. When I first got into it, I took my first client out, and we're sure we can get, you know, we go for $300,000 or $400,000, whatever it was. So we go out there, they find this perfect house, and we get them with a mortgage lender, and sure enough, they're $100,000 under what that cost. They couldn't afford it, and I didn't lose them, but it took me forever to find them another house.
Yeah.
But it was good. A good experience for both of us.
Yeah.
So really, it all starts with you and the mortgage lender, really. And then from that mortgage lender, a lot of times they're going to know people like me and Sam, or that can have a servant's heart that they know that they can turn them over to us. We'll take great care of them and get them into a house. So, and then there also, you know, when you're looking for a realtor, check out your friends and, you know, for any referrals that they might have of people. Or just call us if you're moving here.
Yeah. I think that's the easiest solution.
Yeah, call us. Yeah, and you know, that's a good, what my dad said is, I think step one for any buyer right now that is toying with the idea or is getting serious, I mean, go ahead and get pre-approved by a lender. I mean, there's, that way, you know, A, if you can qualify, B, how much you can qualify for. And then also, you know, we have conversations a lot with people that might, and you know this, Kyle, but people might qualify for way more than they actually would want to pay for a house, you know, monthly. So we work with a lot of people that, you know, get approved for, I can go up to $450, but maybe their monthly mortgage payment makes more sense at like $300 or $350. So I think now, if you're a buyer, is a great time to start doing some of this legwork, so that when you see something, or that in May and June, hopefully when inventory is really starting to ramp up, you already have a game plan right off the board and you can start working aggressively.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what a lot of people are afraid of in starting the process, especially with a lender, is they feel like it's like a pass-fail exam. Like they're going to get in, no one's ever going to tell them the number. It's just going to be pass-fail, no explanation. And then, you know, that leaves me feeling really emotionally discouraged. Where working with a good lender, they're going to help you get on a good game plan. So if the answer is we can't qualify today, or we can't qualify for the price that you want today, what are the next steps that we're taking? How are we building credit? You know, what are we doing with our budget? And same thing, if we can qualify, what does that actually look like for our budget? Because sometimes it's easy to see the $400,000 house, but the monthly payment that we need doesn't really match up to that. Right. So then we need to have that honest conversation before we start shopping for a home and get a little too emotionally invested in some of the homes that might be outside of our price range.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, what'd you say? Go ahead.
Oh, there's an old saying, you know, you don't want to be house rich and cash poor.
Yeah.
So it's really, really important that you have a comfortable mortgage payment that you're comfortable with. You might be able to spend more, but what are you comfortable with?
Yeah. Because a lot of times you can qualify for way more than would actually fit in your budget.
Totally. And like you said, Kyle, too, about how it's not a pass or fail, you know, one of the first closings I had was a guy that had filed bankruptcy, I think like 5 years prior to him, looking at houses when we first had kind of talked, and his credit score was really low. It just wasn't the right timing. He was talking to me about buying, and I was like, hey, talk to this lender. So I kind of kept up with him, once we found out he couldn't buy. And it was a little over a year later. I think it was like 14 or 15 months later. He was able to buy like a $320,000 house. And, again, it kind of goes back to that pass or fail. Even though he couldn't qualify at that time, a good lender like you, Kyle, or some of the other people we work with will give them a plan and some suggestions on how they can do credit repair, how they can save, and kind of get to that point. So that's why I think it's important, especially for first-time home buyers too, just to go ahead and do that now.
And there's something interesting about timing too. Whether you believe in a God or a higher power or whatever that looks like for a lot of different people, it seems like things that might be discouraging that cause us to have some patience up front. Normally, when we go through that process and do the work, there's always something that ends up being better on the other side.
Yeah.
Anytime I've talked with somebody who they found a house, but their credit was not where it needed to be, we did some work. A year and a half later, they finally get the home, and it's an incredible value. They're going to make a bunch of money off of it. It's going to be perfect for their family. And it was so much better than the home that they were looking at initially. So there's something about that waiting process, following the steps and being patient through it all. And even though it can feel, I think, sometimes discouraging, it might not be exactly what we want right now, it's completely worth it on the other side.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's one of the best things about this job. To me, that is the best. I talked to one client, dropped me off this super sweet thank you note the other day, just talking to me about how much they loved the house and how it felt like home. And then I was talking to a new neighbor that I actually sold the house to, and he was talking about getting a dog, and he said, we're finally home. And like, it's those kind of things that really just kind of, that's what it's all about, and that's what's, I don't know, that's just, it's so rewarding to be a part of that process, because it is a huge, for the majority of the population, this is the biggest decision that anybody's going to make as far as a purchase goes in their life, so it takes a lot of trust for the client to trust the realtor, and it's just a really unique and special relationship that we get to share.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. So what are some ways, if I wanted to buy or sell in the Nashville area, how can I start working with you? And if I'm not in Nashville, can you guys connect me with another realtor, or how does that work? And I'm going to throw up your website here.
Nice.
There we go.
Nice.
Got a high-tech budget on this side.
Yeah, man.
Call us. Really don't be bashful, or email us. We'll be more than happy to give you some information, talk you through about what we're seeing at the present time. And, after 20 years, I've helped a lot of first-time home buyers, and then those first-time home buyers turn into your clients over a course of time. So we're here for the long run for anybody. We're not just here to park them in a house and leave them. So, yeah. And Crylife company we work for has a huge referral network. So we can definitely help you find a realtor in any other part of the country that you might be looking at to move in. The one thing also you brought up earlier about Zillow. Zillow in Nashville is tricky because RealTracs doesn't feed to them. So they, at any given time, they only have about 30 to 35% of all the listings on their site. So really, to know the truth of what's going on, it's really important to hook up with a realtor in Nashville for sure.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of markets like that throughout the country.
That's crazy. I did not know how little Zillow had. I always knew that Zillow was a little behind. So for those of you who don't know how Zillow works, basically they're pulling in data from other, basically third parties. So there are people who have the data to begin with, which normally sounds like in the Nashville area is RealTracs. In our area, it's the Dayton Area Board of Realtors. So they all have their feeds of listings. And companies like Zillow or what other ones are there? Like Homes.com, Trulia, Realtor.com are basically trying to pull that data in, but since it's not an original feed, they don't have all the homes.
Yeah.
So mainly what that comes down to is if you're looking to buy a home, you're going to miss out on 70% of listings, right?
Yeah, or be delayed, right? Like I'll get a lot of people send me links and they'll already be under contract.
Yeah.
That happens all the time with Zillow. The people are like, hey, check out this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, I didn't send that to you because they're all under contract, because once they do eventually make it to Zillow, it requires for a listing to be on Zillow in Middle Tennessee, it requires the broker of whatever company to set up that, that transfer. Or some companies like, it's us choosing if we wanted to share it on Zillow with the push of a button. And then some people just don't share here. We're in, California, their MLS service, I think, inherently links up to Zillow. So Zillow actually is an accurate tool in places like California, but in other areas it's just spotty, So yeah, definitely. And our website's a great search engine too, by the way.
Yeah. So if I still want the app experience, I still want to get on the app. I want to scroll through things when I'm, in line at the store or whatever, but I want to make sure that I have all the data. Do you guys have an app, or what's the best way that I can search through you?
We have an app called Home Scout, which links directly into MLS. And so every 15 minutes, all the listings and all the sales are updated. So for us, we really think that's a really good app, Home Scout. We can hook you up to that. And then RealTrax has one called Home Snap, and it's really good too. And both of those are up to the date, daily, minute by minute, really. So either one of those two. But the Home Scout and the Home Snap app, when you hook into a realtor, you guys can share. I can see what you found that you saved, and I can comment on it, so that maybe we don't have to talk, but I can give you feedback right around. Well, you might not want to be in that part of the city because. So, or you do want to be in that part. What a deal. Anyway, so it's good. It's just a way for us all to stay better connected. And in a market that's changing as fast as this one is, that communication thing is really important.
Yeah, and our emails are really easy. Just sam@nashvillehomeguys.com, steve@nashvillehomeguys.com, or you can email team@nashvillehomeguys.com. And we can hook you up with those links with our links for Home Scout or Home Snap, and even set up a search for you in our own system type deal. So I would say those are the two best apps though in this area that I have seen be the most reliable for sure.
And I tell you, the one thing that Sam and I really believe in is I'm going to set up a search for you based on what I'm hearing from you. I'm going to watch what you're searching for. And between the both of us looking, we're going to find that house a lot quicker than a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
So, feel strong.
Yeah. And seriously, if you're in the process right now of maybe you're looking at buying in 6 months or a year from now, go ahead and reach out to Sam and Steve, because from all the realtors that I've looked at in Nashville, in that surrounding area, and frankly, through a good portion of the U.S. as well, is most realtors are just going to want to sit and say, buy with me, sell with me. The market's hot, interest rates are low. And they just want to try to push things forward. But you really want to work with a realtor who has the heart of a teacher, who is willing to say, how can I serve you? How can I help you and your family accomplish what you actually want to accomplish, and not just close on a deal because that's what I personally want. And so you guys, I think, do a really great job of stepping in and helping your clients see where they're at right now and how can you support them through the process. And never through the process do they feel pressured or pushed into something or feel like they have to make a decision that they don't want to. I know right now you guys have been working on the common homebuyer myths over the past couple of weeks, which is awesome. So really coming in with that idea of you guys are there to be helpful, to serve people. This is a service industry at the end of the day. So I think you guys do a fantastic job. So if you're looking at Nashville area, contact Sam and Steve. If you're looking at the rest of the U.S. and the world, can you do the world as well?
You can do the world.
We'll do the world.
Yeah, we're global. We're a global enterprise.
Awesome.
And one more thing before we sign off, and I think what you just said is one thing that my dad and I have really tried hard to do we did another series called Your Realtor for Life, but aside from just us being realtors, we've assembled a team of people that We don't want. It's kind of an interesting transaction, right? Because you work so closely with people, and then they close, and then your job there is kind of done. But it's not like we've assembled a list of contractors that we use. Plumbers, electricians. We have a lot of resources so that when people close and they have a question or they want to get something done, we want to be the first contact that they come back to and say, hey, do you have somebody that you'd recommend for this, or what should I do about this? We don't ever want to just be a transactional realtor, right? We want to have those long-term relationships and help beyond the sale. So,
and one last thing, Kyle, about the website. We do a lot of video, you guys. We have a lot of resources on there, walk you through the selling process. We have a home buyer's guide, seller's guide. So there's a lot of background material if you just kind of want to get your feet wet a little bit.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining and kind of sharing your knowledge here about the Nashville market and real estate market as a whole. I'm super appreciative of your time.
Thanks,
thanks, Kyle. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Yep.
Okay. Bye.